So I cut a piece. I went 6 inches. That way it gave me enough to do the bottom. But there's got to be an easier way to do this. So the way I was doing it is I was taking this tape measure and kind of just going 6 inches, because it doesn't have to be perfect. And kind of just cutting it. There is probably a way easier way to do this, but I don't know what that is. So here we are. 2 pieces cut. Well, so let's see how bad that this piece is. I need to figure out where am I going to have this to do a test fit on camera. I feel like it's going to be on the other side of this. So let's get over there. All right, yeah, let's scoot over here and we'll check it out. What I do, okay, we got that over there. Let's move this over here so we can try this out. All right, so I want this wall type deal, kind of like this. I'm going to leave enough at the bottom. So I'm not going to fight it. This screen wants to curl in one direction. So I'm just going to let it do its thing, if that's what it wants to do. We're going to put this here. Oh, and just like that, I'm out of staples. All right, let's see what we got. Over here, grab some more staples. I'm never planned on anything here. All right, why is that? That should just fit in there, right? Hey, there it goes. All right, where were we? We were right here. So we're gonna, sort of a biscuit. All right. Let's do that. This looks pretty crappy. Let's staple that. I need to get, God dang it, man. Why does that keep coming out? This is horrible, man. All right. You know, if I could stand this up and down, it wouldn't be so bad. But I can't. Because if I do, it's like the bottom doesn't even attach itself. All right, let's grab this screen. We're gonna go up and down. Fasten it there. All right. So this is the look that I'm shooting for, right? Straight up and down. It's kind of rigid, but I guess if I do another section, I could probably do this as a test piece, right? Move this stuff out of the way. Let's go and grab the other piece and we'll do this and see what it looks like real quick. Because I think I'm gonna paint it. Let's move you back here. Now let's see what happens if I shoot this with some of this paint. Now, I wouldn't recommend using stuff like this indoors because I'm not thinking this is going to work very well. But I'm not going to know unless I do it. I just hate doing a test. All right, here we go. Not sure that's even working. Nope. Sprays right through that bad boy. Shoot. Probably should have did a test outside. Dang, nabbit. And I'll tell you what, this stuff stinks. So I wonder if I use regular paint, if regular paint will stick to it, and then use the spray stuff to make it look like stone. Back to the drawing board. Shit. All right, so Amy wants me to try some of this brush paint that she's got to see if this works. Because here's my other thing. It stinks to high heaven in here, right? So let's see if we could take some of this brown. Let's take some brown for right this moment. So if I get, let's just say, a gallon can of paint, the paint's thick enough, will it cover the screen? Yes, it will. So if I get a big old brush, right, and I put this paint on pretty thick, it'll cover up the holes. If I can get the holes covered up, like it's going to take a lot of paint. I mean, it does seem to work. So what I originally wanted to do was I wanted to use, like, it's a plastic flashing. Because I didn't want to have to go through all this crap trying to figure out how to clog these holes up, right? Because this is going to be tough. I mean, maybe if I had a bigger brush, I had the paint globbed on and moved it, probably would work better. I don't know. Jeez. Maybe the screen is just not the way to go. That's a lot of work. As you can see, all that paint went right through. That spray paint went right through the thing. All right. Maybe the screen isn't going to work. Shoot. I was kind of hoping it would. All right. Back to the drawing board. Dang it, buddy. Welcome back to the Shenanigans here. So, all right. Big change for for what I thought I was doing. So right now I took the tape up that went here as a spur that goes off, because we're not putting the lumber facility back in that area. We're going to take, okay, so the other change is right here, I've taken the tape up. I wanted railroad tracks that actually went down through Main Street in town. That is now being eliminated. Reason being, I was a little concerned about how things looked. I don't know. So I put this piece of plywood up. Now this is real thin plywood. You see it here arched around. So there's a place in West Virginia called Matewan. So what I was thinking was, hey, I could have this town inside this hole, okay? Inside this hole, Matewan has this wall that goes all the way around town, because when it gets flooded, they can actually close the flood walls. They have little openings and then pump the water out. Well, it was good for me to think about that and want to include that, but it just wasn't working here, because I don't like the way that piece of plywood looks. Even if I made it look stone, it's huge. When you look at it, and I'm going to move this camera, when you look at this, I don't even know how to do this. If you look at this down at height, you can see that the wall is way, way too high compared to the buildings. Just doesn't look right. So my wife, Amy, came up with this idea. I was gonna raise this part of town up a little bit, give it some kind of terrain. So she came up with this idea, raise the whole thing 1.5 inches. The whole inside and the outsides, 1.5 inches. And that would bring the train up to here. Now, this train will pass under here just fine. Will not pass under here, because this is the incline that comes up to merge into this line. So I'm going to have to cut this out and put a girder bridge in that sits on top, not on the bottom. And the train will pass through just fine. This will actually now give me the ability to have the whole terrain up 1.5 inches. From here, somewhere around here, we'll say round in through here, and cut through here, and maybe swerve, not perfectly straight, but there's going to be a river that goes through, a pretty good sized river. And that will be down to plywood height. So the river itself is still lower than the tracks. The train can actually go over that river. Not sure if you can see it here, but there is a gap under here. So even if this was like the bridge, that is where the river would be, is down here. And that will flow all the way up through there. And I can have little finger pieces, whatever. So I took the track out that was running through the center of town. I'm going to move that track back over here. And then I'll have this curved track, this track here for the train station, and the track in the back that runs down is going to be the run-through track, where the train just goes right through town, cuts this way, heads on its merry little way. Yeah. So I'm going to have to take a picture of all this so I remember how it goes. And then I'm going to move this stuff off so I can put the foam down. And then I need to figure out how I want to get this river to flow and go from there. But yeah, I don't know if maybe I want the river to cut across, and I don't know. But wanted to give this update before I got too far. I'm heading to Lowe's, get some 1.5 inch foam. If I can't find an inch and a half, I'm gonna do whatever I can to build up. And then once we do the inch and a half, the town will be 2 of these high. So you'll see here that this level is a little bit higher than the tracks. The town's going to be a lot higher, another piece of that up top. So the tracks will look like they're lower than the town, but they still drain into the river. That was where I was losing my train of thought, was I wanted to make sure that it was kind of like real life, where it could drain. Water still could drain. So trying to figure out the city station, because these tracks are only going to be 1.5 inches high. Does the city station need to be all the way up? Or does it need to be partially down that has steps going to the city station and then down to the train? That's the other thing that's floating around. So we're going to figure that out when we get there. We're going to go get some foam. This is all going to be raised up here. So this will be eliminated all the way up to here. This is where the 1.5 inches starts. That's it. I mean, we'll go from there. So just want to leave this update. Trying to make sure I do these updates as I think about them and before I do anything. So gonna head to Lowe's, get some foam, and I gotta figure out where to put that Howard Johnson's. It just doesn't seem to fit in what I'm doing. It's driving me crazy. Anyway,